The names broken gargoyles or broken faces were terms used by the military and civilians to visually describe the appearance of the facially mutilated soldiers who were either sent back into battle or abandoned while they attempted to reintegrate themselves into society. The latter often resulted in the maimed soldiers taking their own lives. The work is a composition in two parts. The first is entitled Mutilatus, which concerns the suffering of the soldier in the trenches and during innumerable surgical procedures in the hospital. The experimental impetus was often on behalf of the soldiers, but at other times it was at the behest of the state in order to advance medical research. The second part of Broken Gargoyles, Abiectio, concerns the traumatic lives in isolation of these patients who were forced to resort to the use of wearing tin masks to cover their faces in order to avoid ridicule by the public. The hospital system did not place facially maimed soldiers in recovery units. Rather, they were forced to face the world, despised, often homeless, either together or singly in the forest or in other hidden places. Ernst Friedrich published his book War Against War to alert the public to the realities of the battlefield. The book was yanked off the shelves instantly in Germany, and later Friedrich was imprisoned for his continued anti-war activism. Broken Gargoyles takes inspiration from the poetry of George Heim, who wrote the 4 poems used in the work. In the landscape of the broken gargoyles existed the soldiers who came home from battle with infectious diseases obtained from the mixing of international enlisted men in detention camps. These soldiers were bused to industrial warehouses and uncared for until the time of their death. Since the poet George Heim was a German, he wrote about the experience of the German soldiers. In particular, he wrote about those who had contracted yellow fever. His work was a premonition of the war to come. He had seen infectious wards with his father, who worked there in the capacity of Prussian officer. Treated like useless bundles of decay, the soldiers of Heim's Das Fieberspital, now patients, are virtually alone, except for the grave diggers who come to take their bodies away and a priest who waits to give the last rites. The patients shriek in delirium and laugh in horror at the words they hear from the holy book. One patient is visited by the priest, and this patient hallucinates a giant cartilaginous arachnid that the priest is offering as a wafer of the Eucharist. He thrusts a stone he had been sharpening into the forehead of the priest, who then drops dead into a rictus smile. Outside of the city, a pregnant woman is visited by the demons of the city, who dance around her as she goes into labor. From far away can be heard the city dwellers in protest, one man in a black mask making speeches to the crowd. The woman is taunted by the demons and she gives birth to a headless baby. The monsters laugh and dance in a circle around her. There is an explosion in the city, and the buildings light up with fire.